boy Corey tuning in, and we got a special episode today. We're gonna do a live dialogue with my sisters, this Rene, and we're gonna be speaking on the rape culture in the military. And this issue, it's an issue that's it's kind of light lately, There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been transparent in the past. Certain incidents have to happen and people have to die, women have to die, for this issue to become a main topic and for the world to know what's really going on behind the walls. And, to get this started off, I wanna read this one alarming statistic while doing my research that I recognize in this article. And it starts off as, says, women remain a distinct minority, making up only 16.5% of armed services. Yet nearly 1 in 4 service women reports experience sexual assault in the military, and more than half report experiencing harassment. According to the meta-analysis of 69 studies in the journal Trauma, Violence, and Abuse, one key reason troops who are assaulted rarely see justice is the way in which such crimes are investigated and prosecuted. And under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, military commanders decide whether to investigate and pursue legal action, responsibilities that in civilian world are overseen by dedicated law enforcement. I want to further introduce my sister Rene and just let her kick it off. And sis, how you doing today?
I'm okay. How you?
I'm pretty good. Just glad to have you and your perspective, on this topic right here, because I'm pretty sure you got some intel and some perspective that can help us understand what's really going on behind the walls and women really deal with this rape culture in the military that's been coming to light.
Okay.
So my question to you is, hearing that statistic, man, like, is that a fact? Man, that's what's really going on.
Well, when you read the statistic, it was something that I could definitely believe. It's crazy because when you said more than, or half of them said that they've been harassed, in my mind for a quick second, I was probably, I thought actually I was like probably all of them. But of course that would make this statement untrue to say all, but I know a lot of it does happen. Yeah, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and things like that is a very big thing in the military. I got out of the military almost 10 years ago to the day actually. And so I can't say what they've done in the last 10 years to make it happen, but I do know that when I was in the military, I watched the transition of them trying to make it better, but it still wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't effective, but things still happened. It was just, you had different ways that you could report now, as in there was no way to report. It still made it hard, especially with so little women in the military compared to men. At times you could find yourself in situations where you ain't have no one to report to that was another female. It was all male or whatever. So, they made changes like that on the reporting system. But yeah, it's really tough in the military as a woman when it comes to sexual harassment.
Yeah, and that's and I noticed the patterns, as doing my research and reading about women, and I noticed like a lot of women that reported like in these articles, they speak on, they was assaulted by someone and raped by individuals that they thought were their friends, their male friends, and it was like they were in shock, and the next day, they had to continuously see these individuals, their assailants that raped them, and it had a total detrimental effect on their mental health. It led to depression, people wishing they were suicidal, wishing they were dead, tried to kill themselves, and it affected them for a long time. And it's reading these stories and these articles, all these women are saying the same thing, and it's mentally affected them, the harassment, and the aftermath of the sexual assault. And like you said, they said it wasn't too many resources available to them because they reported it usually got swept on the rug and things of that nature and just covered up. And like I said, they see it was the prosecution rate of that was so low, and none of the prosecutions led to jail time. So, what's fill with your experience with that?
I will say that out of all the cases that I know, I don't know any of the perpetrators that was found guilty that did any type of time.
Okay.
Now, of course, if a person doesn't say something, they of course are going to see the person that did this to them, right? But
Yes.
the part that a lot of people don't understand is in the military, when, say a female is assaulted and she goes to her commander and she tells her commander that something happened, she's not even moved sometimes out of that unit, so she does have to see her perpetrator every day. They might move her out of his section, say he was her supervisor, her first line supervisor. They might move her from underneath of his authority, but she's still in the same unit. So so instead of standing right next to him, she's standing 10 people down, but you still can see him. He can still look at her, give her verbal, say something to her, look at her, intimidate her, and all of that type of stuff. But how it's supposed to go is you're supposed to be able to let somebody know what happens, and you're supposed to be able to be moved out of the unit. But this is when humans step in and do what they want to. So sometimes instead of following the rules, they be like, well, we need this person because they do this job, so we can't get rid of her, and we need him because he do this job, so we can't get rid of him, so we just gonna move her over here. But they still in the same unit, you know what I'm saying? They still can see each other and stuff like that. So that's something that they do wrong, and a lot of times it doesn't stay anonymous. They'll tell, once someone is accused of it, that person is told that they are, and a lot of times that person will tell their friends or their peers, what's going on, and then all of a sudden it becomes news in the whole unit, and then the whole battalion knows. So a unit could be like 100 people, a battalion would be like a couple of thousands because it's made up of multiple units. This is just an example to give you a beat on how many people know your personal business, and then before you know it, your thing is all the way across town at another battalion. So you know what I mean? And it causes a division because you have people that side with the one that is supposed to have done the crime, and then the one that has had the crime against them. So it's really, we used to call it a clusterfuck. It's a clusterfuck of things happening. You know what I mean? It's really unfair to the person that's been violated to have to pretty much be publicly humiliated, and that's the reason why a lot of females don't say anything, because they just rather not deal with everything that comes with it.
Yeah, and I find that kind of alarming and messed up, because it's like a cry for help. So it's basically, if I'm assaulted and the system, the complaint procedure says that I will remain anonymous in the situation, remain anonymous. But like you said, the perpetrator ended up finding out, and it basically, that perpetrator can be in a higher rank, and it basically make it hard for the females, to survive around the military, and just, man, it's messed up, man. And so basically,
all calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
So basically, by being male dominated, the females, the women not really getting justice, like that they should receive.
Correct.
And I noticed like last year, the young lady who I think was at Fort Hood.
Yeah, her name is Gillians, Vanessa Gillians. Yep.
Yes, Vanessa Miss Gillian. They were saying that before she had reported it numerous of times before this situation happened, about her attacker, and the same individual she was reporting ended up killing her, and that's really when it came, because that situation right there really when I tuned in, and it became transparent to me, like, man, this is really going on when that happened, and somebody had to die for that. I think that's a shame, our women are fighting for our country, protecting and serving, and having to put up with that, and that kind of discourages women from even entering to the military. Would you agree with that? Or how does that, you think that has a detrimental effect on women enrolling in the military?
Maybe now, because more light is being brought to it, before, no. Like, when I was 19 years old and I decided to join the military, I had no idea of the rape culture or none of that. I was green as shit. And I was actually very disappointed when I was, so there's different terms for sexual assault doesn't necessarily mean rape. I want to say that first. So in the story I'm about to say, I wasn't raped. I was sexually assaulted, which means I was touched in a manner that is considered sexual assault, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, I was green. I had no idea, man. And, I was very disappointed to find out that type of stuff goes on when I was sexually assaulted in my advanced individual training, which the military sends you to teach you the job that you're going to do. And I had a drill sergeant touch me inappropriately and grope me. I was just like, oh, man, like this shit just like I don't know. I just expected better. I expected more. I expected just a level of professionalism and integrity, because that's something that they shoving down our throats. You got to have integrity. You got to be professional. You got to just all this stuff we got to be. So to be violated like that, I was like, yo, this is some bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? Now, like, so luckily I was who I was, that I knew, like, where I was, and I was like, okay, I know what's going on here now. There's so many young ladies that wasn't that aware, you know what I mean? And it's crazy. So I think maybe now it might be some more pause to it, especially like me. If a young lady, even a man, if they come to me and say they want to join the military, I'm telling them they shouldn't, and I'm telling them why they shouldn't. But with the females, I'm more in depth because I'm a female, and that was I know the experience, that walk a lot better, and I just let them know the bullshit side that nobody tells you. Your recruiter don't put that in no pamphlet talking about be all that you can be. Like, you know what I mean? That's the part you don't know. So I think that with people like me that been there and done that, telling them not to do it, why not to do it, and with just more exposure of what's going on, it might deter them a little bit. Because, this has been going on forever. It's just the civilian world, we call outside the military, everybody else is a civilian, didn't know. But people in the military knew it was happening because we watched things happen. Like, I went in 2001, and it went, I remember where you could be openly sexually harassed by anybody, and it was nothing that you could do. And then they started making rules to where they couldn't have, like, vulgar things pinned up on their walls, and they couldn't say certain stuff to us anymore. And it was crazy, though, because they were like, oh, let me be quiet if I get sexual harassment. It was like a joke and shit. It's really fucking weird, man. It's a weird space. It's a weird space and a weird headspace that you got to get into to be a woman and survive.
1 minute remaining.
And survive in the military. And that's, that's some real. Oh yeah, I was saying, you gotta, to be successful in the military as a female, from my personal experience, you just gotta have a different mindset. Now, I'm not gonna say it's all bad, because being in the military, well, first, being raised in a family where it was a good amount of men started it off. But the military shaped the logic in me. So I'm very logical. It did that. I give it that. And it taught me how to do a lot of things physically when it comes to, like, getting somebody up off of me. I give them that. But, like, mentally, yeah, man. Man, that shit crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to start? We start back from right there?
Yeah, I'm started recording already.
Okay. So, with that said, what type of system you think should be implemented for prevention, that prevents women from having to deal with this rape culture, that'll cancel this rape culture that's going on, like what type of policies or whatever that, in your perspective, you think will help solve this problem?
Well, you could say that when something like this happens, that real punishments are handed down, right? I think that might help to deter some people. But some people are just rapists, man. Some people are just sadistic. Some people just got problems. And just because you make it in the military don't mean your ass ain't throwed off, At one time, the women were separated from the men, but of course, for me to say that, they'd be like, "We've come so far. How could you say that?" I don't know, man. I don't know how to fix this shit. I don't know.
Okay.
The only thing, when I was in the military, I could only affect and change what was around me. So when it came to my soldiers and the soldiers in my unit and in my battalion, I was always the one that if something was going on, they would come to, because I had their back. I wasn't afraid. I stood up for them. I wouldn't, for the best of my ability, I wouldn't let nobody make them feel no type of way. I didn't give a damn what the person rank was. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It just takes, that's something it's going to take. It's going to take fearless leaders that don't fall into that weird headspace that I was talking about. Like, yo, the military will make you or build you into believing that your job is to fucking die for them. And that's cool, regardless of what it is. And it just makes you like, it can make a woman very masculine in her thinking, depending on who she was before she went there. There's a lot of times, I don't want to say a lot, but sometimes the females are worse to the females that report something that happened than the males are. You know what I mean? So I just need strong, solid leaders that will stand up for their soldiers when they need them and stand by doing the right thing. Period. And just be on their ass. Other than that, I don't really know, man. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, well, y'all hear that, from a first person perspective, my sister Rene, she's speaking from experience, so, this is another story, and she has dealt with this personally, by the grace of God, it wasn't to the extreme that other women had to deal with that lost their life behind these situations, but at the same time, no women should have to deal with this period, and I feel that us as men, like you said, leaders, we got to start speaking out on this stuff, man, and hold these creeps accountable, man, because that's sickness, man, and hey, that's like, man, it's bad, and it discourages me. That's why I don't recommend anyone going to the military, especially because of these purposes, because it's a lot of hidden agenda and things goes on behind it. And reading these articles and doing my research, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff was covered up, and me having sisters, and daughters, man, it just hurts me to even read these stories and these statistics, man. And since I appreciate you and your effort and your ability to speak out on this, and just be strong for other women, because a lot of women that deal with this, that's not able to speak out on it because they're still in shock, and I just salute you for your strength and being able to be transparent with us in this platform and giving our audience, an in-depth exclusive on what's really going on with this United States military and how they really doing business, and what they doing and covering it up and how they really treating women.
Yeah, the military, I still suffer every day from effects of my term in the military. You know what I mean? It has lasting effects on people's minds and their bodies. And depending on what they did while they was in there, on their souls, It's crazy. Like, I know what the military's purpose is, which is to, protect and defend us if anything jump off. But yeah, man, it ain't.
All calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
Not right at all.
Yeah, because it sounds like to me, the mission statement is kind of contradicting. You sending us to protect, but you're not protecting us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that shit crazy.
That kind of sums up the definition of hypocrisy.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I know that when you read the statistic, you said that a lot of people said that it was their friends. When my experiences with sexual harassment, most of mine came from those that outranked me.
Okay.
Like, I had one of my commanders one time lay across my bed in my house. He came to do an inspection. And now I think about it, the more I think about it, I know that they did barracks inspections. I don't even know about house inspections. I feel like that was some weird shit him and First Arm was doing. You know what I mean? For real though. And yeah, he came and laid across my bed. Inappropriate. I've had first sergeants try to sleep with me. Inappropriate. I've had a platoon sergeant actually try to rape me. I had to fight him off of me. And I didn't say anything about that is because we were smoking weed and we wasn't supposed to smoke weed. So I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get in trouble for that. But I knew to keep my ass from over where he was. You know what I mean? But
and so he basically used that as a door of opportunity.
I don't know if he used it as a door. I know that we out now. We like to smoke weed. That's what we did. It was wrong. We weren't supposed to smoke weed, but we smoked marijuana. That's what we did. So I think without the marijuana, he still would have tried to do that shit. It didn't make him do anything. He didn't use it as a cover. He felt so inclined that he could have access to my body, and I had to let him know that's not what's happening, cuz. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. Like one of my first days at my duty station, like after you finish your training, you go to a duty station, which is the first location the military puts you. Like within the first week, somebody tried to take my goodies from me. You know what I mean? Just like it was crazy, man. It was crazy. Sexual harassment, sexual assault. That shit was nuts, man. Bananas.
That's I learned a lot today, and just researching this specific topic, and I appreciate you, for your perspective, sis, and thank you, for being a voice for the voiceless, and because there's a lot of women that not been able to tell their stories out of fear, like you said, and the mental effects of the aftermath of that assault, rape, whatever it may be. The military in general, is real, and you see a lot of people led to depression. You hear it all the time, PTSD, and suicide, everything of that nature, and that's alarming, and that goes to show, man, that they're not doing their job, It's harming more than it's helping, in my opinion, from what I can conclude from reading and doing my research on this. And I just salute you for being part of this today, Anything else before we close that you want to put out there?
Yeah, don't join the military.
Hey, just like that, you heard it straight direct, live and direct from my sister J. Rene. Do not join the military, and I concur with her. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Hood Paralegal. And we out. And like and share and comment if you got any stories or know anyone that has dealt with this same thing, man, shit, comment on it, and let us know what happened. We appreciate everybody's perspective on this topic. Thank you.